Welcome again, and we will look at the third tense. We will learn le passé composé. Please like, subscribe, and share. Le passé composé is the perfect tense. The perfect tense is used to describe what happened in the past. So how to form it? You will need the subject, the auxiliary verb, and the past participle. 3 parts. So first, the subject and the auxiliary verb. So for most verbs in the perfect tense, you'll use the conjugation of avoir, to have. The conjugation of avoir is j'ai, tu as, ils, elles ont un, nous avons, vous avez, ils, elles ont. And the past participle is the last bit, the harder bit. So remember there are 3 types of verbs: ir verbs, ir verbs, and re verbs. So if it's regular, there's a pattern as always. This is how you form the past participle. For the ir verbs, you take away the ir and add an I accent aigu. For ir verbs, take away the a. And for re verbs, take away the re and add a u. For example, manger, which is an ir verb, goes to manger. Grandir, an ir verb, goes to grandir. And répondre, an re verb, goes to répondu. Here are some more examples so you know. I walked on the beach. It's j'ai marché sur une plage. You finished your homework. It's tu as fini tes devoirs. And my dog and I waited for the vet. Mon chien et moi avons attendu le vétérinaire. So, when you form this type of sentence, the perfect tense, the subject is the first thing, followed by the correct conjugation of avoir, which is an auxiliary verb, and then the past participle. In English, there are irregular verbs in the perfect tense, like see to saw. And this is the same in French. There are irregulars, and here are some of them. So avoir is être is été, faire is fait, prendre is pris, lire is lu, boire is bu, voir is vu, vouloir is voulu, devoir is dû, pouvoir is pu, écrire is écrit, croire is cru, savoir is su, connaître is connu, recevoir is reçu, mettre is mis, offrir is offert, offrir is ouvert, and promettre is promis. So instead of following a regular pattern of past participles, you would use these instead because these are irregular, so they don't follow a pattern. So now we've looked at verbs with avoir, now être. Verbs of motion. For verbs of motion, the auxiliary verb is through être, not avoir. This is harder. So first we have to look for the conjugation of être, to be, which is je suis, tu es, il, elle, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils, elles sont. So the formations, the order is still the same, just the past participle changes. So we use Dr. Mrs. Van der Tramp for verbs of motion. Devenir is devenu, revenir is revenu, monter, monter, rentrer, rentrer, sortir, sorti, venir, venu. That was irregular. Arriver, arrivé, naître, né. Another irregular. Descendre, descendu, entrer, entrer, retourner, retourner, tomber, tomber, rester, rester, aller becomes aller, mourir becomes mort, and bâtir becomes bâti. Mourir is irregular too. So these past participles, most of them are regular, so they follow the pattern. But the reason why I said that the past participle for être is different is because for verbs of être, the past participle has to agree with the subject. Therefore, you have to use the following endings onto the past participles. If the subject is feminine singular, you add e. If the subject is plural, you add s. And if the subject is feminine plural, you add es. It's a bit like the endings of adjectives. For example, ma cousine est née. Ma cousine is a female singular, so you add an e. Mes amis et moi sommes sortis. So that's plural. So you add an s. And les filles sont venues. It's feminine plural, so you add an es. And also, the auxiliary is form of être, so it's est, sont, and sont. So this is more advanced, it's more hard. So reflexive verbs also take être. The reflexive pronoun goes between the subject and auxiliary verb. For example, elle s'est levée, and the reflexive pronoun is se, but it gets shortened, contracted, so because if two e's are like next to each other, then it gets contracted. And reflexive are like pronouns when you do it to yourself. If there is a negative with a reflexive, the ne, for example, pas, goes outside of the reflexive and auxiliary verb. For example, elle ne s'est pas levée. So now you've learned another tense, the past tense. It's one of the most important tenses. Please like, subscribe, and share.